Fantastic. So I'll click and record. So welcome, Mark. So I'm going to spend roughly about 40 minutes just going through your background as an entrepreneur, and the whole purpose of this whole conversation is really to understand how you've evolved almost as a business and as an entrepreneur on a local and community level. And the first thing I always want to ask is, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, hi, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, well, my name is Mark Hall, and I've been involved in community work voluntarily for over 6 years now. I actually became the chair of my resident association due to crime in the area. I then became the chair of the Gospel Oak District Management Committee, which is a whole big borough in Camden, looking at residents and looking what they need and all their wants and needs and everything. So from there, I started just to do voluntary community work, did a couple of pop-up shops to engage the community, did some lunches, gardening projects, basically always been based on just doing things in the community without it being a company, just for the love of wanting to see change, really.
Fantastic. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? So what kind of attracted you to community-based work in general?
Well, the first thing was I've lived in my area for over 25 years, and about 10 years ago, we had a lot of things with crime, antisocial behavior, lots of things being publicized. One of them was a murder, which we actually saw outside our street, which then led me see all my community started to retract and not go into the streets. So I was a bit scared by this. And so I contacted the Camden Council, and they gave me a pop-up shop, which I did like a charity pop-up shop, but basically we just gave stuff away, just about bringing people in and engaging in them. And this just kind of snowballed. So I started really just from a need to someone to stand up and kind of organize a bit the illegal activity that was going on, basically in and around our residential block. Yeah.
Fantastic. And just to confirm, Camden is your local area. You've lived in for 25 years.
Yes, Camden is my local borough. Yes.
Fantastic. Perfect. And tell me a little more about your startup career so far. So you said you've been in the startup area for the last 5 years. Tell me how that's evolved over time.
Okay, so I started to get some attention, I guess, project. Like, we really engaged the community. We brought the community together. 1 second, can we just start for 1 second?
Yep, that's fine.
I think that my internet has gone off.
So it's recording again. I'm going to repeat the question again. So tell me a little bit more around your startup journey so far.
Yes, so from the few pop-up shops I did earlier on 3 or 4 years ago, Camden Town approached me and said, listen, you're doing great work in the community. We have a project called Camden Alive, which was run from the Mayor of London's office. And it was a project to engage the community. It was a decent budget. And so I decided to speak to the local community. A lot of people involved in fashion. A lot of people want to do like upcycling, sustainable fashion. So we come together and we created an upcycle fashion collection that was inspired by our own personal lives. Hence all the flags behind me. A lot of the kids did their identity on flags and nationalities. And it just grew into an amazing project. It was over a year. The final show was in the British Museum on the 7th of March, which was amazing. And we used to meet as a community. The youngest one was 5 and the oldest one was 81. So I pulled in, I worked with Shelter Boutique, worked with the Hemingway Designs, which was the founder of Red or Dead, the fashion brand. Central St. Martin's also gave me tutors. And I worked with HIV Arts Foundation, which is the kids foundation, and another charity called Little Hands. So basically I brought all these charities together on this project. There's over 120 people involved. And it was amazing. And then the show was in March 2020, right in the middle of the coronavirus starting. So it was a bit of a freaky time. And yeah, that was an amazing result. And now that's what we're trying to do now, is to keep this project alive due to the current restrictions, because we used to sit down in a community center that we hired 5 days a week. People used to drop in, come and go, people in wheelchairs, elderly, young. And it was an amazing engagement experience, like phenomenal when I look back actually what was achieved. And then, COVID came along. So this is the point, what do we do now with the project that was really based on people coming together, engaging, exchanging stories, making art and crafts together and fashion. And then suddenly it was illegal to do so, to meet and do those things. So that was where, this course was, to me, was invaluable. Yeah.
Fantastic. I wanted to go a little bit deeper into some of the challenges. So what were some of the things that you think impacted yourself and the community directly? Could you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, what it was amazing because this community, there's a lot of generations of people living in this community for over 20, 30, 40 years, like 3 generations of families living together. And actually nobody really knew each other that well. So this community project got everyone to kind of start making new friends. I mean, there were some people who used to come just to the project, some of the elderly, just to make tea for us, just to kind of be around. And then they started to realize that they knew each other. And this was invaluable because we actually talked about topics. We talked about the history of the area. People brought in photos of what the area was like before all the new buildings came. And so we really, really engaged the community and brought them together. So much so that actually the crime in the area decreased, purely because then people were knowing, okay, well, I know his mum, I know his auntie, I know his sister. So conversations were being had and things just got more, community based. People became friends with each other, and especially with the pop-up shop. I mean, people would just come by and just hang out. So we really got to know each other better. And I'm talking, every denomination, every culture, every type of person in the community were just sat around tables and creating. And that still to this day, those connections and friendships still exist. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Did you see any immediate changes during lockdown? So it could be the way you worked. You said everyone had to work remotely. Was there anything else that impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was actually my worst nightmare because I am community based. I'm all about getting in there, getting on the street, getting people into places. Oh, come here on Tuesday. Oh, there's this, it kind of empowering the community with the knowledge of what was going on all the time, getting people out of their houses and stuff like that, doing the lunches I used to do and the coffee mornings I used to do. So to me, I mean, sorry, everyone, I mean, no one's happy with what happened, but for me, I kind of went into shock, to be honest with you. Like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I have all these people that I felt were depending on me to be, the man to push them around and to get people involved at other houses. What do I do now? Like, and so I felt really responsible to do something, still reaching out. I remember I gave a couple of views of sewing machines and fabric and kind of teaching them how to tie dye, because the mother said they didn't know what to do anymore. I think it was just a shock of suddenly having all this amazing engagement and a great feeling and a great vibe, a great energy. And that just stopped and was replaced with paranoia, replaced with fear, replaced with uncertainty. Because I always wanted to reach out in my projects to the people that were vulnerable, that weren't mainstream, or So to me, I knew that I thought that I've given them something. Like you give someone a beautiful chocolate gâteau cake full of cream, and before they've had a slice of little taste, you take that cake away, and they don't see you again. And like, what happened to my cake? Like, I want that cake. I can still taste the cake in my mouth. Where's my cake? So it was that really just made me kind of step up and think, okay, I have to do something still somehow to keep this engagement going, just because it's needed even more so now than it was before. So for me, it was it was a nightmare and a shock, and I just had to reflect and look at my resource and think, okay, what can I do? What can we do as a team? My team was small, but what can we do now?
I think that's so powerful. I love the chocolate cake analogy as well. It's really important. I remember from a previous discussion, you said there was an example where you were helping young boys knit as well. Could you go a little bit deeper into that? Because that's quite a great way of engaging people who wouldn't really be associated with knitting in general.
Yeah. Well, it was a surprise to me. So one of the partners that I work with is called H4H Arts Foundation, and it's an amazing charity, and they give free courses to the arts to all the local community. So in the last project I was doing, I worked with the kids, again, the t-shirts behind. I worked with them. I'm talking about reception age, like from 5 to, the oldest one was probably only like 13. And I don't know whether it's the presence of a man in the room, but all the boys, like predominantly we had like half and half. Sometimes it was more boys than girls. And to me, that was amazing. Because, you know, I'm not that old, but back in my day, for a young kid to want to start sewing was not really, you know, it was, you know, you needed, you know, to be strong to do those kind of things. You're probably going to get backlash at school or whatever, you know, doing home economics or whatever it was. So that's what it was. But it's the way that I teach them. I also like, you know, I teach them the sewing machine is like a car. Like later on when you get older, you really, you have to learn to drive. So this is like an accelerator. So go really slow and those kind of things. But I don't actually how that happened or why that happened. But yeah, predominantly we have always guys, young boys present, and they're really into it and doing some amazing work. I don't know if it was just coincidence, but yeah, but it's present. And even now on the courses that I do now, I speak about it later, but yeah, they're still on board. So that to me is really empowering that, you know, that's not seen as something, as a sissy thing to do, like back in the day would have been something like that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just love that story so much. I really wanted to bring that out as well. I wanted to move more into the pivot in terms of what you've done so far, but I wanted to take a step back a little bit. Um, and this is around more entrepreneurship. So how would you kind of define entrepreneurship in terms of your community? And how do you think entrepreneurship is making a difference in general?
Yeah, I think, well, again, like this course has really helped me look at this, you know, you talked to like the value of propositions. So that kind of made me look at what I have been doing and actually realizing that the work I was doing is actually a business model, because I've been doing these things voluntary in the community engagement, basically what I've been doing. So I started to look at like, you know what, all these different projects I've been doing, it's been community engagement. So therefore there is a business in this. You know, there must be some kind of format to turn this into a business. Like basically, this is a social enterprise or a CIC. So the more I looked into it, I realized, okay, this is what needs to be done. So I think many times when people in the community, like myself, are doing stuff because they have the heart to do it, they want to see change, or they just, you know, they're just like good people, they want to make a difference. I think it's interesting to maybe look at what you're doing in your community, and I'm sure you're doing great work. So is there a way that what you're doing, you could turn into your own business? You know, it will still be supported. You'll still get grants if you do a social enterprise or a community investment company. So I think that's something quite good to look at, because I think people like myself, we kind of do things, like I said, because of just the need to do it and the desire to do it, possibly very creative. And I think sometimes we don't look at actually what we're doing, like I said, as a business. And I realized with this course that what I've been doing over 5 years is not only a business model, but it's a business model that works because it's been working for 5 years and growing and growing and growing. Like, you know, to do a show in the British Museum, like, how does that happen? And that was just from, you know, the love of community. And now I realize that actually, yes, this is a business model. So I advise, you know, anyone out there who's doing similar things in the community, you know, you can actually turn it into a livelihood. You know, do what you love, and you can actually turn it into a livelihood where you can imagine doing the things you want to do, but actually, you know, sustaining yourself and your family also. I think that's important when you do community work. Many people do kind of do it for free. And I think it's something to look into. And there is a lot of support out there now, I've come to realize, for community projects. So I would advise that if you're really doing something that you love and it's making a difference, then see how you can switch it and make it into your company, into your livelihood, and bring it into your, you know, to your pay for your needs and the things that you need and necessity, but still carry on with the work, but actually be valued properly for it and be able to actually, you know, live a, you know, a joyful life doing what you do.
I love that quote. Fantastic. And I also wanted to dive a little deeper in terms of, you said as a business model, you can see how it's become successful. How do you measure success for yourself?
Well, for me, I measure success by the social impact that you see from what you do. That's always the way I've done it. You know, now I'm pivoting and trying to make it, like I say, into some kind of a viable company. But actually, the social impact is where I think you see whether it's working or not. You know, what people say, hearsay. You know, the more things you do, and more people coming. But I think, yeah, the success is, are you changing lives, basically? I mean, in a nutshell, I think if you're changing lives, even if it's only one, it's a life changed. So I think therefore, so the currency is, the more lives you change for the better, that's your currency. And if that's working, then that is what is your payback. That is when you know that you're onto something.
Amazing, amazing. I want to go a little bit more into the pivot now. So, and also the program as well with Foundervine and all the other different boroughs around the area. How do you think yourself as a business has adapted during COVID?
Well, we had to take a real look and see what we could do. And through the course, that the pivot was basically that we need to be media, we need to get online, we need to have the same kind of presence somehow and create it online. So what I started to do, I started to follow up the classes I was doing with the children online. So we started to do Zoom classes now on with hand sewing and techniques and stuff online with them, which is really, really working. We had like 17 kids last week. Every week it goes up. So we started to do that. In relation to that, so it was going so well, I started to do short video tutorials. So the kids that couldn't get to class, because also I've come to realize that lots of people don't have Wi-Fi at home. You know, we work with underprivileged kids on this charity. So, you know, just trying to access them laptops and things like that was really hard. So I'm thinking, okay, if I can then create the lesson that I've done online, then, you know, they'll be able to access it in their own time, in their own place, and then kind of catch up. So that was a big pivot for me. And actually the videos have been so well received that that's something that we're moving forward with to, you know, to looking out for funding now to try and do this at a whole year program. But in the meantime, I'm still going to keep out doing the videos. And what was really interesting from the course and pivoting is just learning how to use the internet properly, like the CEO, what does it stand for now? The search engine optimization, CEO. Like basically when you post something, how you post it, what descriptions you put in there. I really learned from the course. So I did a bit of a test with the latest video, YouTube video, and I did that. And I didn't even promote it. And after 1 week, I've already had like over 60 views, which is quite interesting because I learned how to phrase what I was doing. So I think that was a really eye-opener for me. So the pivot for us is really about that, is really just moving stuff online. We send out packages every week to the kids, like what they need. They've got sewing kits at home. So that was the pivot. And then moving into, by the end of March, launching our eBay charity shop. And also from you guys helping us, realizing that Shopify and Pinterest is really, really, really super important platforms right now. So that was where we moved. We've just moved onto digital, you know, platforms, and just going to be working on that more and more and more, you know, waiting for the day we can all get back into rooms and create. But I think this is the only way forward now. And, you know, through necessity comes creativity. And I think actually it's just another way for people to adapt. And it's actually not that hard to do once you have, you know, a course like this that really teaches you those fundamental things you need to do. And, you know, it was great to have the slides so we could keep looking over the slides, because a lot of information, lots of new information, like just the value proposition for me was mind blowing, because I was like, okay, I now have to figure out who my customers are, their needs and wants, which has really helped me, because I was thinking about my current project, which is Made in Camden, is fashion project. So I thinking who my clients are, what their needs are. And actually just a couple of days ago, I had like a revelation, like, actually, no, your clients are the councils you're working for, the charities you're working for. And I revalued what I'm doing. Okay, so actually I am providing a service, and my customers are not the people buying their made in fashion products. No, it's Camden Council who gave me the funding for this project. It's the arts charity that I'm now working with them. So then I realized that was a big changing point for me, to actually realize that actually, yeah, so you are a company. This is your brand. So therefore your clients are the people that you can give a service to, not actually the individual that's going to buy the product at the end of it. So that was you know, an eye-opening moment for me to realize that.
Amazing. It's always inspiring to hear you talk, and that's great as well. A couple of questions. It's always interesting to see what skills have you leveraged. So you've talked roughly about social media, but I'm also interested in terms of the partners you've been able to collaborate with as well, to make this pivot happen.
Yes, well, again, from the course has made me look at, I think in one of the accountability courses that you done, you were saying, look at what partners you have around you and kind of utilize them. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, of course, I've been using over the 5 years, all these different partners, again, not consciously realizing that I was making some great contacts. I mean, on the last project that's running Made in Camden, I aligned with, like I said before, Wayne Hemingway Designs, which was the founder of Red or Dead, which is a fashion brand. I've sold it. He now works into social housing. I reached out to him for the project. He came on board for free and designed us a 15-foot dress that was designed with world messages that the kids I've been asked the kids to give like world messages for us. So they built a 15-foot dress on stilts for the British Museum. I aligned with Shelter Boutique in Neil's Drop Yard in King's Cross. We decided to design upcycle clothing for them for the store, denim jackets and stuff like that sold really well. Then we aligned with Central St. Martin's College. They gave us some tutor time for free to teach us like pattern making and weaving and quilting. HVH Arts Foundation, which is a kids foundation, and also Little Hands charity, which also does hand sewing for the youth, and London School of Mosaic, where the place was based. So when you actually told me that, I was like, wow, I already have all these partners. So currently now with the new stuff coming through, I've definitely reached out to them, and I'm continuing to do planning to do some things forward, especially with Shelter, the charity shop. This idea of upcycling garments to give to them as a donation to then raise money for the shelter, things like that. So yeah, over the time I've made quite a lot of partners. Again, Camden Council. I was interviewed by CNN Sky, came to the shop, and ITV interviewed me. Had a meeting with Keir Starmer before he was a leader of the Labour Party in his office. Made amazing connections with many councillors, Alison Kelly being one of my a person that gives me a lot of advice. Just met lots of people in local government that really became really important partners. And because they can also, I don't know if people know this, but if you've got a community project, you can actually approach your local councillor, and they have certain funding pools that if they put their name to it and they believe in your project, that they can actually get you funding. Whether you're just a community group, unestablished, haven't yet formed a CIC, they can do that on your behalf. So that's kind of a good thing that I learned. Your local councillors are really important, no matter which party they're from.
Well, that's amazing advice. Just moving on, because we're halfway through at the moment, and we're on time, which is great. But I know you've got so much more amazing insights and nuggets to share. I'm always curious in terms of what are some of the things that helped you pivot, and what are some of the challenges as well during the pivot? Because it must not have been a seamless transition, or maybe it was.
No, it wasn't a seamless transition. Basically, I was thinking, how do I do this? Obviously, can I find a space where people can meet to carry on designing? Is there a way we can do some kind of creative bubble? All these mad things, how we can do. And then in the end, I came to realization, I have to look at one of the other thing the course taught us is, look at what you have already and see if you can make that work for you, whether it's bringing down costs or, moving around or whatever. So I decided, as you can see, that luckily my flat is quite large. So I decided to move my bed out of here, and I made it into my to my workspace where I do the video tutorials from. So that was like a big pivot and quite a big commitment to me. But it worked, because how am I going to now be, finding money to have a space where I can work from, where, I can do the video tutorials. So that was a big pivot for me, was just being dedicated to the project. Let's just bring it into my house for now until we move forward. And the other thing was, without the knowledge of the course, I wouldn't really understood the social media aspect. I know a lot of people in the creative arts also are not really aware of how this social media really works. So yeah, I just studying the course really helped me realizing how, where to post, how to post, try to, mix with groups of similar likes, similar interests. So if we're doing for example, if I'm doing an upcycle fashion project, so I'll set up an Instagram on the project, and straight away just look for all those people doing the same thing in, fashion, upcycle fashion, sustainable fashion, and just join all those groups, or just start to, follow everybody. And if you take time, on liking their things, making comments, you know, it actually works. You might start following maybe 800 people, but then what you'll find is then you'll start getting like 350, 370 people actually following you back. And those are the people, with those people, you can work with those people. And then eventually, if, you know, people don't follow you back, you can also go through and, you know, and just do a bit of a cleanup, you know, because finally, if no one's engaging with you, it's not a problem just to, you know, unfollow them. So that's a really good trick that I learned, is to get followers quickly, is to do that. Like, don't just open an account and wait for people to follow you. Like, just get out there, like go out there, make a comment on someone's picture. I mean, one example of this, I was donated a large collection of vintage clothes from the 70s, like Dior fur coats, and there was one designer who I didn't know before called Tomasz Staweski. Now, Tomasz Staweski, when I found out, is half Polish, half English. He dressed Lady Diana, he dressed Margaret Thatcher, like he was very high end. So, okay, let me follow him on Instagram. Follow him on Instagram from the fashion project, start doing some messages to him, not just some likes. And I started to write some messages to him. He just goes around making amazing pictures from France and these big houses, you know, he's a successful designer. And I started to make comments. Now he's starting to make comments back to me. So I'm waiting for the time, because we're planning to do an auction of the clothes at Christie's to raise money for the project. So now I'm just waiting to say, listen, I have, you know, like 12 of your amazing dresses here. We're going to do an auction at Christie's. Would you be up for, you know, just giving a shout out on the project? So that has yet to be done. But my point is this, you know, connect with the people that you admire or that inspire you or doing the same thing as you. Start to like their things, you know, and start to make comments, you know, not like, you know, don't stalk them, but just make some mindful comments to people, you know, just because then you get noticed. You get noticed by the person you're writing to, and also you get noticed by the people that are following the thread. So, okay, who's that Made in Fashion project that commented to, you know, to Kate Moss? And then they'll look, and then you'll see that that kind of thing works. But it is an art and it is a job, but it's worth what the course taught us was, if you can just put on one of the sessions, if you can just put 1 hour a day just to doing your Instagram, liking, following, commenting, it actually, it's what you need to be doing in this day and age, especially with the COVID and the restrictions, that people actually be surprised. People do actually reply to you no matter how famous or not they are. So that was a helpful one for me to understand that now we need to reach out digitally to people and, you know, engage with them in a different way. But people are actually open and appreciate it when you actually do make a comment on what they're posting. So that answers what, I don't know if I got lost in what we were saying, but that's an important thing I learned.
Really important. Again, this is all very valuable. I wanted to move on to the penultimate question now, and this looking at kind of short-term to long-term actions. So what do you think is going to happen now? What impact do you see now? And what do you think is going to be the future of the business you're doing and how that can help support your community? The first one will be around your purpose. Do you think short-term, the purpose and the value you're creating for families, for communities, for social people in general, has that changed that much? And where do you think it's going to go in the future?
Well, my purpose hasn't changed, because my purpose has always been to engage the community in whatever shape or form. But what I've learned from this is, you know, now I have a slogan for what I'm doing, and my slogan is creatively engaging community. And so that will always carry on. I think now it has to be done even more than it was before, because obviously, you know, the isolation aspect of what's going on and the uncertainty of the future. I think, you know, when we do these projects for the community, they need us, and they miss us when we're not around. And you make connections that are really important. I think sometimes you don't realize how important those connections are, like just, you know, just from acknowledging people and listening to people. So that thing needs to carry on even more so than now. So what I'm trying to do is, again, is to it's kind of launch more, to do more Zooms. I mean, now we're just doing like a one a week, so I want to do that more. I would like to increase the video tutorials. And now with Camden, I've got another project that's kind of coming along, which we're actually going to be designing an app, which will be all around the clothing that we've made, everybody, the children and the elderly in the project. And we're going to create like a styling app. So basically we'll have IE, artificial intelligent models already designed in the app, and people will be able to come along and like be like a wardrobe, like a styling game. So all our clothing will be in there, and it's going to be kind of another way to keep everyone going in the project, another NEIGHBOURHUB project, but keeping them engaged. So that's another great project that I'm just starting to do now. So it's a matter of just reaching out, and looking how to keep people engaged online. I mean, it's unfortunate that it has to be online, but I mean, you know, Americans have been doing it for years. Americans have been connecting online for years, even in the business sense. You know, I've got a lot of friends in America, and like, you know, they don't drive hundreds of miles to go to a meeting. They've been doing it online for ages. So I think we just have to get comfortable with this situation. I think it's something that's going to stay. And there's something good about, you know, you don't have to travel. You know, I've got some people that that I work with in Camden Council, and they come from Brighton every day or from Nottingham every day. So surely that needs to kind of become irrelevant, because how can you justify just the carbon footprint of that over the space of a year when actually predominantly you can still be productive online? It's just a matter of us getting to use these new tools really in a more comfortable way, and educating people more on, you know, the use of platforms like Zoom and, you know, other platforms that are out there. But I think, you know, people really need to look at this way of being online as something that's really going to stay. And it's actually quite exciting, because you can do lots of stuff online, you know, with more software coming out, you know, group meetings, like a lot of them that you introduced us to them on the project, lots of different formats to collectively collaborate together, whether it's, you know, designing or project planning, or just, you know, having a way to connect on whatever projects you're doing. So I think that would be the way. You know, we just need to keep looking forward and how we can be more engaging virtually, you know, online, and creating inspiring projects that still can surpass this, you know, this problem we have about, you know, being 2 meters apart.
Fantastic. I love it as always. Also, have you, and this is going back to the program again, what do you think of you found some of the short-term opportunities from being a part of the program with Foundervine?
Well, the immediate short-term opportunity is there's a one participant on the course, a lady, she actually works in childcare, child therapy and all those kind of things. So I've already made a great connection with her, and we're looking to have some collaboration on each other's project, which has been really good. I think this is really good in this moment, because we formed a little sense of community. I mean, we've been going since November, and I think that we did, you know, create some kind of feeling, and we kind of really were supportive to each other, coming up with new ideas. It was very open space. We could kind of all of give each other advice. I mean, I was giving some guy advice, and he sells, you know, marble tiles from Italy. I mean, I know nothing about marble tiles or how to sell them, but yeah, from another race. And I, you know, had ideas and maybe would help his business in a way that he hadn't thought about, and vice versa. Like, I think it was a nice platform in this time to be connected, and to kind of, even though different businesses were at different stages, some weren't even a business yet, some were very successful. You know, we had architects, we had builders, we had jewelry makers. So it was a very varied group of people. But in the end, I think that the sense of having a place to come, and I remember people were saying, "Oh, I'm so looking forward to, you know, to next week," and it was that. It was like, not only did you look forward to it, it was a way of keeping you kind of accountable for what you were trying to do, and not just get lost in this what do I do kind of thing, and I've got, you know, I can't see anybody or I can't meet anybody. It was a way of keeping us on track, and also kind of obviously inspiring us to what's going to come next. So it was very inspirational and very comfortable arena to be in, and I would suggest that anyone who has a chance to do it should sign up, because it was really a good experience, even though it hasn't finished yet. But yeah, very informative and very comfortable, and yeah.
Fantastic, amazing. And I want to move more around the long-term, almost actions in general in terms of what you can see. And one that really stands out is, what do you see for the future of businesses and your business in general, past lockdown, past COVID?
Okay, well, past COVID now, basically, I want to now get the company set up properly, form a group of people from residents have come forward that want to be part of the CIC. So for me, yeah, by the end of March, I want the CIC to be in place. I want the video tutorials to be a standard part of our project, and also reach out more. I would like to try and find a space where we can take over, where people can actually be creative, and maybe even before the COVID is, we get back to some sense of normality, trying to create a space is very important. I've found for creative people that they need to go and create outside, that they can create in their house, especially with lockdown and everything's so in the house must be more intense. You can imagine if you've got a family and children, you're trying to, do some kind of creative business is really hard. So one of the goals I want to do, and hopefully with the local council, I should have the conversations now, is to try and find some kind of space that can be utilized for community artists, where they can be alone to create in a safe space in a way, because those spaces are really needed. Like creativity is really important in life, and especially now, I'm thank God that I'm a creative person, because I'm never bored. There's always something to do when you're creative, and there's some people that aren't creative. So it's good to kind of give a platform. I worked many times in the community groups, and people said they weren't creative, they didn't know how to sew, and they made some amazing things that even they were surprised at. And even I was surprised at. I was like, oh my God, you're really good, actually. So it's kind of, giving a place. It would be great after COVID to have a space where people can just come and create, like almost like a drop-in situation, just to kind of get that creativity out of them, because creativity can be really helpful, especially for mental illness or disabilities. Anything creative, it should be encouraged. And I think that in local government, especially in Camden, and my last project, to find a space to run the project from was very, very difficult. It took me almost 2 months to find a space, and in the end, most of my budget, well, not most, but a big chunk of my budget was going to paying for this space, which is why I decided to take the London School of Mosaic, because it was actually a charity doing great work for the community. So I said, okay, if I'm going to pay someone this chunk of money, I want to make sure it goes to a community project or a charity that can use the money, because spaces for artists to hire is super expensive, and there's a lot of creative people in the community that actually could be producing products to kind of change their life. They don't have to be on benefits. I know quite a few people that are on benefits from the project that make amazing stuff, but how can they be supported in that? So there needs to be a space where they can go along, create, and almost kind of see if they can create a product that then would sell, like a startup that would help you realize that if you can be a startup or not, if you understand what I mean. So that kind of space, I think, will be something I'd look to do something in the future, to create accessible artist spaces for people on low income or on benefits, even to see if they can switch then from being on benefits to actually being, a productive artistic company.
Fantastic. I love that. And that was actually one of my questions in looking at the new opportunities and you can develop over time and how you can explore different ways to empower the community. But you've already answered that. A quick question, just back to what you said before. You said, did you say the CIC or the CCC before? What does that stand for?
A CIC is a community investment company. Okay. So it means you can create money, but all the profits you create must go back into the community. So that's what I did before with a couple of pop-up shops, because I had a tenants residents association which allowed us to fundraise. So that was my first project, was a little pop-up shop for 2 weeks, and basically all the money that we made from the selling, then I did in the community free lunches for the elderly, free Sunday lunches. I did coffee mornings every Tuesday and Wednesday. So the money we made, we put back into the community, and that's a CIC.
Yeah. Amazing. Love it. Really interesting stuff. So before I move on to the final question, the last one around looking at long-term actions almost and what you see in the future. How do you think kind of the purposeful community stuff you're doing can evolve over time? So can you see yourself expanding into new type of demographics or serving new communities or new customers or finding new revenue models? What does that look like for you?
Sure. Well, I've been thinking a lot about this, again, with the course, looking what I've been doing. And for me, the business model that I've created, just going into the community, like taking over pop-up shops, doing a charity shops, then raise money for the community. I would like this to be a business model that can be reproduced, like hence the word neighbor hub. So it's like neighbor hub, which means this project can actually be put into other communities and let it be run by the community. So something I'd like to do is to bring this forward. Is I would like to go into other councils, other communities, and kind of share my story. You know, take an abandoned building or a shop now on the high street that's empty, reach out to your community, get them to donate everything they want to donate, clothing, whatever you need to do. Use that as a community hub to engage people locally in the community, because from them you can inform them about whatever you need, you know, police issues or health issues, or if they need, you know, loft insulation projects. You know, you can kind of use it as a hub, neighbor hub, use it as a hub. And in this hub, you would promote everything in the local community that is available. So what programs are for kids, what social help you can get, welfare you can get, your local counselors, and then use that money to fundraise to then re-impact, you know, to impact your local community. Again, like what we did Sunday lunches for the elderly, the coffee mornings. We did a gardening project also that's still here today downstairs. All the garden was abandoned. We got local community to adopt a little area of the garden. Now they all look after it. It's like 15 people on that project. So I would like to use this as a business model to then go into other communities and, you know, show them how we did it and let them carry on to do that. That would be kind of my dream in the end, was for people just to kind of replicate this idea and make it, you know, Neighbor Hub a brand where we would come in, set it all up for you, advise you what to do, and then, you know, let you go ahead and do it. Because we also discovered artists, which is another thing I didn't mention in the hub. I looked out to the local community, artists, painters. I put their things in the shop that they sold. There was one lady who's been on benefits for a long time, and I knew she was an amazing painter, but she didn't believe it. So then one day I had enough and I went and said, give me the painting of David Bowie. And I put it in the shop and I sold it for £500, and it changed her life. You know, so that money, we bought materials for her, you know, all the money was for her straight away. She even met the woman who bought it. We did a lovely photo shoot, things like that as well. You know, look out into your community and see what people are doing and give them a platform to. If they've already got one painting, it's fine. If they sell it, then that makes it's like mind blowing for them. Like, oh my gosh, someone actually bought it. I'm like, I told you somebody would buy it. With a nice picture of it before, so we have a good print of it. But, you know, things like that, to use this neighbor hub as a way in going into communities, and it's run by the community and it's for the community. And I think it's astounding what happens. So I think that would be, for me, the end would be to make this business model reproduce in other boroughs, in other areas, and just kind of be an advisory part of that, of getting them up and running. Because these things just kind of, once you do it and the community is there, they just manifest and they just carry on. And it's quite impressive what you can happen when your community comes together for each other and for the benefit of everybody. It's good.
Really powerful again. I love that. We're moving on to the final part now. This is more reflection on the program itself. This will probably take a little bit less time, but it depends on how much you want to give me in general. We've only got 9 minutes left. If we overrun a little bit, would that be okay? Or do you have?
Yeah, certainly. No problem.
That's fine. That's perfect. So the first question would be around, can you tell me a little bit more around what interested you in taking part in the program in the first place?
Well, I was actually, luckily, I didn't actually hear about the project. It was someone else that told me about the project, which was David, who is the founder of London School of Mosaic, which where one of my projects was based. He basically put me up for it, and contacted by Camden Council, and I thought, this for me sounds perfect. Then I look at the application. It's like one of those things that, okay, you want to do something, then they give you a big application you need to fill out with lots of questions. But it was worth it. I went through the application and realized that, you know, this, if I could, you know, get on this course, it would be invaluable for me and for the community right now. So, you know, sometimes you just got to sit down and do that work. As a creative person, it's not always easy to fill out forms, but, you know, go ahead and do it. And which I did. And thank God I got taken on the course, given a place on the course. And when I saw it, I realized, that there was a lot of talented professional people that were going to be giving great advice. It was so needed at this time with the COVID, that everything was shutting down. How do you, make that transition with your company? How do you pivot? And how do you, keep carrying on? And how do you change? And I just saw that there was a wealth of information being given, and that I just had to get a place on this course. And I knew that it would change my perspective of not only myself, but as making my community project into an actual company. Even the accessing finance was a great course. I mean, there were just so many great speakers that came and just gave out so much valuable information that you wouldn't normally get. There was a lot of information, that's true. There was a lot of information given in one time, but having the access to the class after, the slides and everything being recorded, that was super beneficial, because we were given lots of high-end professional information that was new, and I wouldn't have heard anything before, about CEOs, search engine optimization. Now I can say it before I couldn't even say it. And I'm just learning. It's like, it was an incubator course. Like, we learned so much, and I think that I knew when you guys advertised the project you were doing, that this was going to be like a full-on informative course, and I wasn't wrong.
That's amazing. I was also going to think about, on reflection as well, what can other startups learn from this program as well?
I think what other startups can learn from this program is the need to actually look at what you're doing with a mindset, and not from, how do I say? Because what I do is very passionate. It's very in the moment. It's very inspirational. It's very creative. But this course kind of makes you look at what you're doing in a logical way. For example, I go back to the other example, value proposition. I never heard of a value proposition before. And so now you're asking me to not only look at my customer. So first of all, I got to define my customer, which is not easy. And then I have to look at the lives of that customer. And then I have to understand what those customer does for his job. What are the things he does good at his job, and what are the things that don't really work for his job? Then I have to find out, okay, so the things that don't work for him to make his life better, is there something I can then provide to fill that hole that then they're going to need, and then they're going to want my product to carry on in their happy, super successful lives. So that to me was a game changer, because do people really look at their customers and think, what do my customer do? Where do they live? What do they want? What are their good things? What are their not so good things at work? That was so insightful. And I think that would be for me. And I say to everybody else, it's not something you would think of every day. You just go along doing what you're doing, but you have to actually, think who you're doing it for. Because then when you find out who you're doing it for, then you can actually streamline what you're doing. Or you can then say, okay, well, I'm doing that and I'm doing that. Okay, but what you're doing there is not for that customer, but it's for that other type of customer. So then is there a way that instead of putting all your products on one plate, or all your services on one plate, can then you then align your different services to attract those other type of clients that have different needs and different wants to this kind of clients? So it's really just putting a magnifying glass on what it is you're doing and who you're doing it for. And are you giving the person that you think you're doing it for the right thing to do it with, if you understand me? So that was quite mind-blowing. I think that was really important part of the course, is finding out what your service is and who they're for, basically.
That's really important. That's really important. Yeah, so I think last couple of questions now, because we're almost done. It would be, how do you think government can support businesses a bit better in general? So it's just a reflection.
I think that, like I said before, the conversation I'm trying to have now with my local council is, again, it all comes down to location in a way. I mean, people need some place to start to build a business, and it's not always possible to do it at home. Some people actually need that detachment to go out of their homes and go find a space that is secure, that is functioning. Especially, I think I'm more or less looking at the creative side of startups, because that's kind of what I do. I think the government needs to kind of do this idea where, especially to help low incomes, especially startups. So if someone's on, if someone's on benefits, I see this all the time. It's a classic example, and it's something I repeat many times to counselors. So for example, you have a single parent, she's got 3 kids. She makes the most amazing jewelry from a little budget. She sells it to her friends, or maybe she had a little market before. Doesn't really make that much money, because this person is scared that if she starts making too much money, they're just going to lose all the benefits, and the child benefit and the housing benefit. So there are people that are caught in, like, I call it something like they're caught in like this pyramid situation where they want to improve their lives, but they're scared that when they get to the top of the pyramid, when all the benefits are taken away, are they going to slide down the other side of the pyramid now and be abandoned? And that is what you need to do. You need to create a support system that when you're going up this pyramid from, this will be like you're on benefits and you're going up to achieve what you want to achieve. So when you suddenly achieve what you want to achieve, all your benefits disappear. So then you're at the top of your dream, looking down, go, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work now, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom again. Then I got to go back up to go around. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to support them to get to the top of their pyramid, but then also give them a sliding support on the way down. And I think if they did do that, then people would be more interested or more convinced to follow their creative arts and make it into a business. Just because you start a business, they give you benefits. I think it's like 16 weeks or 12 weeks you can get benefit, and after that your benefit stopped. So I mean, if I was a mother, or this mother of 3 kids, how on earth can she even think about doing that? Because she's got 3 kids to feed. A dream's a dream, but reality is reality. So after 12 weeks, if her business is not up and running, she's back in the same system again, and probably have to fight more now to get benefit, because this is where you can work already, because you've already been working. So it's this thing that we need to do. Government needs to come in and raise people up, but at the same time, when they're up, don't just drop them and say, okay, you're good to go now. No. You need to bring them down the other side. So there needs to be a sliding thing. The more money you make, less benefit you get possibly. But there needs to be some kind of legislation that really supports startups in any business, but to let them get a good year, a good couple of years with some slight support to support or access to funding to help their projects. Something like that needs to be done. In a nutshell, when they're up and running, you need to also support them for a certain amount of time to continue their business, and then I think they will be more encouraged to make that leap.
Fantastic. That's definitely going to be included in some way in the write-up. Final question now, and hopefully this is a positive one. But what have what's some of the things you've really learned in the program, and what makes you positive about the future? Because I think COVID at the beginning, everyone was a bit depressed, but has this program really helped you at all? Think more positive about what you can do and how you can support communities.
Yeah, I think the project has helped a lot, just basically by focusing in on what it is I've been doing for the last years, even before COVID. I think COVID for a lot of people has brought on a lot of reflection in every way of your life, in your lifestyle, or even relationships, or whatever. I mean, people are thinking more. They've got time to reflect, and they've got time to stop. I think that's what happened to me, and this course came along at the perfect time, because I'm able to have been rolling on to other projects without thinking again what I've been doing all these years. And this project has made me realize that actually I've been doing this, creating this brand without even realizing it. And this course allowed me in these moments of reflection with COVID to actually see that. So I kind of see what I've been doing, look at myself and say, okay, so how can I make this moment now of reflection and this great opportunity of having this course, all the insights it's been given me, what am I going to do next? What I'm going to do next is now I'm going to, harness all my talents that I have and the people around me, and really take this time to form this company. So when we come out of COVID, we'll be, ready to up and run and get going. I think the course was just taught me that I think sometimes we don't look at ourselves closely enough on the actions that we're doing and the impact that we're having, and trying to streamline those things as in time and your definition of where you want to go, or look at your goals and just get some perspective on how your startup will start up and what impact it will make. And the course also, gave us lots of links to, to ways we can get funding and investment. So I think I've gone off a little bit. Did I lose the question?
No, that's fine. This is raw, honest.
Yeah.
What you think. So it's a great job. So the question again, you've answered it in a very articulate way in terms of what are some of the positives you found out of this whole program in general, and how you can take it forward. And you've talked about that already with the funding and with the value proposition, helping you to actually stop and actually think about how to work on your business rather than in your business. So a great bit of reflection there. I think that's it really. So is there anything else you want to say before we head off?
No, I guess not. No, I mean, I'm just really grateful that I've been on the course, and it's been invaluable, and it will be still invaluable to me. And hopefully going to get some people in my community also to sign up to the next one. But I know it was a pilot of the first one, but I think that I think it works, and I think it's needed. And I just hope that the project carries on and people sign up. And it seems like quite a long time to sign up for something, but it's invaluable, and it's meant a lot to me. And I'm sure my community is going to benefit from a lot of stuff that I've learned. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's always a pleasure. I'm going to